Hello everyone, this is Professor Robert Solis. Welcome to this video lesson. In a past lesson, we talked about writing data to a file. And so we created this program, and I'll just give you a demonstration again. I'm going to run the program. So the idea was to take this data and save it, and we're going to use a save file dialog rather. So let me go ahead and type in some fake data. So we'll say Fay King. Born in December 5th, 1970, say for example, 4.0 average. Okay, so we've typed in the data into these text boxes. Now we're going to click File Save, and so a file dialog box comes up. So in this previous lesson, we were saying, okay, so where we're going to save the data, and let's say we're going to save it to the desktop. And so what am I going to save it as? And I'll just say, okay, save this as Fay King data, and I've already created this from a previous time, so it's going to overwrite it. That's okay. The save as text type is going to be a txt file, a text file. So I click Save. Because I've already saved it in the past, it's asking me if I want to replace it. I say yes, and I'm using a Macintosh, so it's going to ask me that question again. Probably for those of you on a PC, you won't see that. Okay, and that's it. Let me close the program. So that was the idea of creating a menu that leads to a file dialog, which I called over here. I called that save fd, and then it's going to take that data and put that into a delimited file. So if I were to, let's say for example, open up File, what's that called again? I always forget. In Windows, File Explorer, yes. And let me go to the desktop and let's take a look at this. That's a text file. I double click this, and as you can see, it saves it in a comma delimited file format. Well, what if I want to read that information back because I've closed my program and now I want to open it and I want to get the information from a file. So what I need to do is I need to create an open option, an open menu option that's going to create an open file dialog, and then use that to open the data wherever it is and then load these text boxes. And so that's what this video lesson is going to be about, creating an open file dialog in addition to what we have over here. So I think I'm going to leave this lesson alone and create another Visual Studio instance and then copy all of this, and then my new student data will be not only save and exit, but it'll also have an open file option as well. So let me first open up Visual Studio, again, another instance of it. There we go. And I'm going to say create a new project. It's going to be a CSharp project, Windows Forms application. That's fine. We're going to call this CSharp. And this will be, well, let me see here. What did I call the other one? I called it writing data to a file. Okay, so we'll say opening data from a file via the usage of a file dialog box. Okay, well, I don't want to have to do this work all over again, so let me just do some copying and pasting. So what I'll do is I'll switch over here to this app, and I'm going to hit Control A for copy, or for select all, and then Control C for copy, and then back over here I'm going to do Control V as in Victor. And okay, there it is. Now this didn't necessarily copy or position correctly, so let me see if I can just move it up here like this, and I don't know, something like that. Say for example, that looks pretty close. Let's see here, let me go ahead and minimize this like that. No minimize, no maximize box, so I'll open up the properties panel and minimize box, maximize box. That's not supposed to say form 1, that's supposed to say student data, so let me select that. And in the text property, we'll say student data. Okay. The names and everything should have transferred over. Yeah, txt first name, txt last name. That's good. On the file menu option, I have mnu save. This should have been mnu exit. Yeah, looks good. What I need to do is I need to create an open option. Now, I always forget, what the keyboard shortcut is, the alternate keyboard shortcut for a Windows program. So let me just open up Notepad and remind myself. I can't find it here. Let me just type in Notepad. There it is. And if I press Alt, and let's see here. Is it Alt? Oops, sorry. Should be Alt. It looks like, let's see here. If I hit Alt, how come it's not working? There it is. Okay. And then I press F, and okay, it looks like it's the letter O that has the alternate keyboard shortcut. So what I'll do, let me close this, is I'll type in ampersand and then open. And what that does is the ampersand is in front of the letter O, meaning that if I hit Alt O or Alt F first for file and then O, it's going to be the keyboard shortcut for the open menu. So let me press enter. We're going to call that guy MNU open. And I'm going to move that on top of save. So I'll drag and drop it like this. And I need another horizontal line. So over here, I'll just enter a hyphen, press enter. That's how I create a horizontal line. I want to drag and drop that just underneath open. And so now you see what that looks like. In fact, if I hit start, let's just make sure it's looking okay. So here's student data. Click file. Okay, there's open. There's the horizontal line. There's save. There's exit. Looking good. Okay, and I should copy and paste the code. So if I double click on exit, and let me go back over here and take a look at the code, and I'll just copy and paste the code for exit, and it should be closed, right? There it is. So copy and paste. That's good. Save my work, go back over here, double click save. Okay, so let's copy and paste that code. So from here all the way down to here, copy and then paste. All right, so that takes care of save. And then I need to take care of open. Well, first of all, I have a save file dialog, but I need to create or drag and drop an open file dialog. So what I'm going to do is open up the toolbox. And I'm going to look over here where it says dialogues. Here we go. And one of the dialogues that I need is this guy right here, the open file dialog. Let me drag and drop this over here in this bottom area. And I'm going to rename this to open FD, which is the open file dialog name for this guy. Now, let me go back over here to the original program and run this. You know what a dialog is. It's one of these guys right here. It gives you an opportunity, this save file dialog gives you an opportunity to save your file anywhere you want on your computer, your desktop, your documents, your downloads, wherever you want. It gives you an opportunity to change the name and also what the type is. And also gives you an opportunity to cancel. I don't want to do this, say for example, right? But now, instead of a file save file dialog, we want an open file dialog, and that's what this guy is about. We're going to create one of these. So let me double click over here. I already renamed it to MNU open. Double click. I've already dragged and dropped, as you see over here, the open file dialog. So I don't need toolbox. I don't need properties. And let me go back over here to the code area, and this is what I need to fill in. I need to type in the code here so that we are able to take the data from the file that we've already created and then populate the text boxes with that new data. Okay, so how do we go about doing that? So first of all, we're going to create some strings. I need to know the name of the file, and so I'll just create that in the form of a string. I also am going to be pulling in the text from that string, so we'll just call that delimited data or delimited text. Now the word delimited means how is it being separated? How is the text being separated? And let me open up the File Explorer one more time, and in desktop faking data, it looks like this data is comma delimited. Watch this. Now the data is hashtag delimited. All right, now the data is, let's see, what else can I do? Hyphen delimited. Do you see how that works out? So the word delimited just means, like, how do you separate the data? Well, let me make sure that I don't save this. Don't save. In this case, we are separating the data with commas. So it is said that this data is comma delimited. Okay. All right. So I need to get the text. I need to get the text that we were just looking at, the Fay, comma, King, comma, 12, comma, so forth and so on. And we're going to call that delimited text. Now, when I open a file dialog, I can give it a title. For example, let me go back over here, run this program. When I go to File, Save, see that title right there? But this is for the Save file dialog. But for the Open, it's going to say Open Student Data. And I can also give it a filter. And I can also indicate what the default extension is supposed to be, so forth and so on. So let me cancel this, close this, switch back over here to our program. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to say for the Open File dialog, which I created just a moment ago called OpenFD, I want to change the title. So .title. And what am I going to have that display? Open Student Data. Next, for the Open File dialog, I want to change the default extension. Now, what kind of extension do I want? Well, I'm going to be opening up a text file, so I'll type in within quotes txt. And then I want to be able to filter the data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, in this case, whoops, sorry, filter is what I want. There we go. I want this to be a text data type. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back over here and copy and paste this. It's really the same thing as the save fd.filter. Let me copy this. I'm saving myself a little bit of typing. If you don't have the other file that we were working on for the save fd, then just type this. And all that means is this is what's going to be displayed. This is going to be what it means to open or just to look at text data. So that's a wildcard.txt, and this is what's being displayed. And we also want to give the user another option to display all the files. So like this is one default display, and then the other thing is we can just display all the files. And what does this mean? Well, wildcard.wildcard means display all the files. And if I wanted some other option to open up MPEGs or JPEGs or whatever, I could just keep on doing that step by step through here. Okay, so now that I've established that, within an if statement, we're going to say openfd.show dialog. Open and close parens. It could be that the user clicks the cancel button. And if they click the cancel button, then I don't want anything to happen. So I'm just simply going to type return, which means it does not continue with the rest of the code underneath the if statement. It just simply exits out of this particular procedure. But what if the user really does click the OK button, right? They've selected a particular file that they're going to open, and we're going to get the data from that. So they didn't cancel, they clicked open. So that's why I'm going to have another else if statement. And for my openfd.show dialog, open and close parens, if they click the OK button, well, then what do I want to do? In other words, they've selected a file and then they've clicked OK. Well, if that's the case, I need to grab that file name. And I've already created a variable over here called file name. So we'll say file name is going to be whatever the file name that was selected from the open dialog. All right. Well, once I've got that, now let me grab the text inside of that file. And so how am I going to do that? Well, first of all, I created a variable over here called delimited text. That's the text that's going to be name, comma, last name, comma, birth date, comma. It's going to have a bunch of commas that separate or delimit the data. How do I get that? Well, I can use system.io.file.read all text. Now, there's all kinds of read options. It looks like this one is going to open a text file, reads all lines of the file, and then closes the file. Well, I want that. And it looks like it returns a string. That's perfect because I want to put that into a string. So we'll say this guy right here, read all text. Now, what is the name of the file? Well, so it says here, open a text file, reads all the, yeah, that's right, and then closes it. And the path is the file to open for reading. Well, I've got that. File name. So we'll say file name, close parens. All right, well, now that I've got that file name opened, and I'm going to read all the text, and I'm going to put it into this delimited text. So this now has, let me just type in a quick comment. This now has something like Fay, comma king, comma 12, comma 5, blah, 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 blah. It's got all that text that is comma delimited. I need to split that up. Now, at this point in our course, I have not talked about arrays. And so I need to use an array to store this data. What is an array? I'm going to be going into that much, much deeper in a future lecture. But let me just give you a top-level view of what an array is. So you can think of an array as like a bunch of boxes. So let me create box 1, and let me create box 2, and let me create box 3. And let's say that these are shoe boxes. So inside of box 1, I put like Adidas. And inside of box 2, I put my Nike shoes. And over here, I put my New Balance shoes, and so forth and so on. So I can have as many boxes as I want, and notice that they contain a certain type. Well, in this case, these are shoe boxes, right? These are not tissue boxes. If I put Kleenex, I don't know how to spell that, Kleenex. If I put Kleenex in here, that's not right. These aren't tissue boxes. These are shoe boxes. So that's not appropriate. I should be putting in shoes into the shoe boxes. Or maybe these are jewelry boxes, or maybe, whatever the box is. Okay, so an array is simply a collection, and they are numbered. So we do something like this. Instead of just box 1, box 2, we put these subscripts, we put these square braces around, and we call these guys indices or subscripts. In other words, this is the address. So this is box address 1. This is box address 2. And in fact, you know what computer scientists do? We start counting from 0. We love starting to count from 0. We don't count from 1. So this is the address for box. This is box 0. This is box 1, box 2. That's what an array is. An array is a collection. Now, if you get it, that's fine. If you don't get it, just parrot what I'm doing, and then later on, when we talk about arrays, this is going to make much more sense. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a string array, and so that's what this means. Now, what am I going to call this thing? I'm going to call it lines. Now, in my lines array, what do I want to put into here? Well, I want to put all of the items that are in my delimited text, but in separate addresses for lines. When I run the program and stop it, you'll see what I'm talking about. So what we do is we type in delimited text dot split. Man, this function is really cool. What you're basically saying is, how are you splitting the data up? Well, I'm splitting it up using a character, comma. So the comma is what's splitting up the data in delimited text. So I'm going to get that, and I'm going to put each of the items into this array called lines. It's a string array called lines. Well, once I've got that, I can put the data into my text boxes. For example, txt first name dot text. What I can do is I can say, yeah, the lines array, specifically the item that's located in the 0 address. The txt last name dot text, that can be obtained in the lines 1 address, and so forth and so on. So let me just go ahead and copy and paste this, save myself some typing, copy, and I'm going to have it for birth month, day, year, and GPA. Okay, so over here, this is going to be txt birth month. This is going to be txt birth day, txt birth year, and this last one is going to be, oops, sorry, double click, txt GPA. Nope, I didn't select txt GPA. This guy right here. I'm going to activate the insert option, double click, and activate override, I should say. And then I'll type in the number 2 here, 3 here. Oh, I made a mistake. 3, 4, and 5. And then I'm going to take off overwrite. Save my work. Let me run the program to demonstrate, and then we'll slow down a little bit. So first, let me start. And here's our program. And I'm going to open some data. So File, Open. Ah, beautiful. Look at that. There's the Open File dialog. This is the title that I gave to it, Open Student Data. Yep, there it is. Default extension should be text. Yep, beautiful. Oh, by the way, we also want to give the All Files option. So let's use the All Files option. There it is, All Files. But in this case, I want text. Okay, so all this stuff works. I'm going to cancel. Yep, it worked because see over here, if the user cancels, then just continue with the program. Don't jump to the rest of the stuff here. Just get out of this particular procedure. So that worked out. Now let's go ahead and select a file that I've created previously, and I put it on desktop, I believe. Yep, there it is, faking data. Double click, and because I'm on a Mac, this happens. That's fine. Click open. Wow, look at that! It populated the data. Isn't that great? It took the data from that file. Why? Because I'm saying over here, when I click OK, when I did this, right, I open, and I selected this, and I'm going to click open. When I click open, then get that file name from the open file dialog box and put it into open. Then let's split up all the data. So now what I want to do is I want to stop the program, and now let's see what happens step by step. So I'll stop the program right here. Run it. File, open, faking data, and click open. Okay, we're stopping the program right here. So what this line of code does is it's going to get the data from, oh wow, look at this. So file name is not only just the file name, it's the path. And since I'm running this on a Macintosh, it says Mac, home, desktop. That's where my txt file is. We're going to get that and we're going to put that into delimited data, which currently is blank. It's nothing. So let me go ahead and step over. But now look at this. Delimited data. There it is. Fay, comma, king, comma, 12, comma, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we now have all of our delimited data in this. What I want to do with that delimited data is I want to split it up. How is it being split up? Well, with commas. And then I want to put it into this array. Now, let's take a look at this array. It says it's a string array called lines. And what happens is if I click over here, it looks like lines has not been assigned anything yet, but watch what happens after I step over. Now lines has been given a bunch of data. Let me click on this little tiny triangle right here. Oh, look at that. The 0 item includes the word Fay. The 1 index has king. The 2 index has 12. So remember before I was telling you that computer scientists like counting from the number 0? That's our first number. So the 0 address of lines contain, the array lines contains the string Fay, and then the next one king, 12, 3, or 5 rather, 1970, 4.0. So this array is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in terms of its length, and it has all of the items broken up individually. Well, now you can see how I can take each of those different items. In fact, let me go over here. It's easier to see it over here. Fay is going to go into txt first name.txt. King, 1, is going to go into txt last name.txt. 12, number 2, is going to go into btn birth month.txt, and so forth and so on. So these items are going to be moved into, or I shouldn't say moved, they're going to be copied from here and assigned into these various text boxes. So right now the text boxes don't have anything, but if I step through all of these, and then let me just go ahead and in fact click continue, you see how now they are all populated. Let me stop the program. So this is a great way of saving data to a text file. And I shouldn't say saving data. That's what we did in our previous video lesson. We used this guy for save. But now we can open. We can open data from a text box and then populate it into, I don't know, whatever you want. Text boxes, labels, whatever you happen to have on your form. You have a mechanism now of using the open file dialog and populating it into data on your screen, or objects on your screen, such as text boxes, labels, buttons, whatever you have. So this is a really cool little function or functionality that I've given to you that you can use in all of your future programs. And that is it. So this is Professor Robert Solis. I hope this video lesson was helpful. Have a good day. See you next time.